Let's cut through the noise. You're not here by accident. You clicked on this, or walked into this room, or tuned into this moment because something inside you is restless. Something inside you is tired. You're stressed, worn out, drained, and the worst part, you don't even know why anymore. But let me tell you something: stress is not your enemy. Stress is a signal. It's your mind's way of screaming, something's off. It's not random. It's a result of patterns, a result of choices, a result of what you tolerate. See, most people live their lives in reaction, not creation. They wake up to an alarm clock they hate, scroll through a phone filled with fake success, eat food that fuels nothing but fatigue, and go to a job that doesn't light a single cell in their body on fire. And they wonder why they're stressed. You want the truth. You're stressed because deep down, you've forgotten who the hell you are. You've traded your vision for validation. You've traded your power for people pleasing. You've traded your peace for productivity, and worst of all, you've settled for less than what you were born to do. Let me ask you a serious question. When was the last time you felt alive? Not busy, not productive, not efficient. I mean alive, heart beating, mind clear, purpose driven. If it's been too long, your stress isn't the problem, your disconnect is. You're not stressed because of your job. You're stressed because you forgot why you took that job. You're not stressed because of your relationships. You're stressed because you stopped communicating and started assuming. You're not stressed because life is hard. You're stressed because you're resisting change, and here's the kicker: what you resist persists. Your brain isn't trying to punish you, it's trying to protect you, but it only knows what you feed it. If you constantly tell yourself, "I'm overwhelmed, I can't handle this, it's too much," guess what? Your nervous system will shut down, you'll go into survival mode, and when you live in survival mode long enough, you forget how to thrive. Here's the truth: you don't need a vacation. You don't need another cup of coffee. You don't need to escape. You need to reconnect. Reconnect to your values. Reconnect to your vision. Reconnect to your voice. You're stressed because somewhere along the way, you stopped living with intention and started living by default. Listen, if you don't decide what matters most to you, the world will decide for you. And the world doesn't care about your peace. It cares about your performance. You're being pulled in 1,000 directions, saying yes when you should say no, nodding when you want to scream, scrolling when you should be meditating. Let me give you a new perspective. Stress equals signal, not a stop sign. A signal, a sign to pause, reflect, rewire. Here's what I want you to do. Audit your inputs. What are you feeding your mind? Who are you listening to? What's in your environment? Reclaim your mornings. The first 30 minutes of your day set the tone for your stress. Don't give that to the world. Own IT, move your body. Emotion is created by motion. You cannot stay in a stressed state if your physiology changes. Speak truth. Stop hiding behind "I'm fine." You're not fine, and that's okay. You're growing. You're evolving. Speak your truth. Remember who you are. You were not born to be average. You were not built to survive. You were made to lead, to create, to love, to heal. Every breakthrough begins with a breakdown, and maybe this is yours. Maybe you've been carrying so much that your back is breaking, not because you're weak, but because you've carried it alone. But you're not alone anymore, because right now you're waking up. You're realizing that stress is not your identity, it's just a phase, a season, a signal, a reminder that you're ready for the next level. And let me be clear, the next level of your life will demand a new version of you, not the stressed out, tired, doubtful version, but the centered, grounded, fired up, unapologetic version. You don't get to your purpose by playing it safe. You don't get peace by pleasing everyone, and you sure as hell don't get freedom by running away from the fire. You run into it because that's where transformation happens. That's where leaders are made. That's where your true self rises from the ashes of burnout. So I challenge you, no, I dare you take the stress, feel it, then let it push you to reclaim your life. You've got one shot at this thing. And this moment, this pain, this stress, it's not here to break you. It's here to wake you. Wake up, warrior. The world doesn't need a more stressed out version of you. It needs the real you, the focused you. The free you, and that version, it's ready now. Let's go. Stress is not the problem, disconnection is. What most people believe is that stress is some external monster creeping into their lives, ambushing them from behind deadlines, relationships, expectations, and responsibilities. But the truth is, stress begins the moment you lose alignment with yourself. It's not what's happening around you that's overwhelming, it's what's happening within you. Stress is the echo of a life that's no longer in sync with what matters most. It's the noise that fills the space where clarity used to live. And the more disconnected you become from your purpose, your values, and your vision, the louder that noise gets. Think about it when you were deeply connected to your goals, when you knew exactly why you were doing what you were doing. Even the hardest days felt worth it. You could stay up late, work harder, sacrifice more, and still feel strong, because the fire inside you burned brighter than any pressure outside. But when that fire starts to die out, when the why becomes blurry, even the smallest tasks start to feel heavy. That's not a workload problem, that's not a lack of time, that's a disconnection problem. You've drifted from your why, you've forgotten your original intention, and now stress shows up like an alarm, not to punish you, but to remind you that you're off course. We live in a world that teaches us to chase achievements, but rarely reminds us to check in with alignment. People build entire lives that look good on the outside but feel empty on the inside, and they call it success, but deep down, they're drowning. They don't need more motivation, they need reconnection. They need to plug back into what lights them up. But because they're so used to numbing the stress, ignoring the signs, and powering through the pain, they never stop to ask, is this what I really want? Is this the life I chose or the one I settled for? That question is the beginning of healing, because when you reconnect with your true self, stress transforms from a burden into a compass. Disconnection breeds confusion. It creates a fog that makes you question your ability, your worth, and your direction. It tricks you into believing that you're not enough, when in reality, you've just been unplugged from your source. That source could be your faith, your passion, your creativity, your mission, but whatever it is, when you stop feeding it, your soul starts starving. And stress is just the hunger pangs of your purpose. It's your system begging you to return home to what matters. The solution isn't to escape your life, it's to remember who's living it. It's not about quitting everything, it's about reconnecting with why you started. Because the most powerful people aren't the ones who avoid stress, they're the ones who stay connected to meaning while facing it. They know that connection to purpose makes even the hardest storms navigable. And without that connection, even the calmest days feel suffocating. You don't fix stress by running from it. You fix it by listening to what it's trying to tell you. You ask, where have I drifted? What part of me have I been ignoring? What have I said yes to that doesn't align with my soul? Stress is feedback, it's data, it's intelligence, but if you don't pause and process it, you'll misinterpret it. You'll blame your job, your partner, your schedule when the real issue is your internal alignment. Your values and your actions aren't matching. Your desires and your decisions are in conflict. And until you bridge that gap, stress will keep showing up as tension, fatigue, anxiety, and burnout. But the moment you close that gap, the moment you return to alignment, stress loses its grip. Because stress cannot survive in a soul that's deeply connected. When you know who you are, why you're here, and where you're going, you gain a power that pressure can't shake. What you resist persists. It's one of the most brutally honest truths about human behavior, and yet the most ignored. Every time you try to push something away emotionally, mentally, or spiritually instead of dissolving, it digs in deeper. You can pretend you're not angry, but that anger simmers under your skin, waiting for a moment to explode. You can act like you're not afraid, but that fear whispers to you in silence, shaping your decisions without permission. Resistance is not strength, it's self-sabotage in disguise. People think that avoiding pain is a form of control. They believe that if they ignore their stress, suppress their sadness, or numb their insecurities, they'll disappear. But the opposite is true. The more you run from something, the more power it gains over you. You spend your energy building walls instead of building growth. You bury emotions that were never meant to be buried, only understood. And whatever you bury, you carry. Resistance is heavy, it's exhausting, and eventually it catches up to you. There's a reason why the same problems keep showing up in your life. Different people, different jobs, different situations, but the same emotional reactions. The same fear of not being enough. The same need for control. The same pattern of burnout, resentment, or failure. That's not coincidence. That's the universe, your own psychology, and your unresolved emotions circling back until you finally sit down and deal with them. What you avoid emotionally doesn't disappear with time, it festers, it grows roots, and the more you resist, the more life will push back to make you face it. True power isn't found in resisting pain, it's found in leaning into it, processing it, and choosing how you respond to it. Resistance keeps you stuck in survival mode, always bracing for impact, never truly free. It's a trap disguised as protection. You think you're shielding yourself, but you're actually shrinking yourself. You avoid hard conversations because you don't want conflict, but now you're stuck in relationships without honesty. You dodge failure because you're afraid of judgment, but now you're paralyzed from trying anything new. You resist change because it's uncomfortable, but now you're living a life that doesn't excite you. This is the cycle that keeps people stressed, stuck, and silent. And it won't break until you stop resisting and start allowing. Allowing doesn't mean surrendering to weakness, it means acknowledging what's real so you can finally transform it. You can't fix what you refuse to face. You can't grow past what you won't even look at. And that resistance becomes a prison. Not because of what's outside of you, but because of what you're not willing to admit inside of you. People resist emotions like grief, failure, rejection, and fear because they're uncomfortable. But those emotions carry messages. Grief reminds you what mattered. Failure teaches you what didn't work. Rejection often redirects you towards something better. Fear sharpens your senses and calls you into courage. But if you're so busy resisting them, you'll never hear the wisdom they carry. You'll just feel stuck in a loop, wondering why you can't move forward, unaware that it's your own refusal to feel that's keeping you locked in place. Even physically, resistance creates tension, tight shoulders, shallow breathing, clenched fists. The body doesn't lie. It stores every ounce of unresolved resistance like a ticking time bomb. And over time, that resistance doesn't just impact your mental state, it becomes fatigue, illness, or chronic anxiety. Your system wasn't designed to hold on to everything. It was meant to move, to release, to evolve. But when you resist what needs to be processed, you poison your own potential. The truth is, most breakthroughs begin with discomfort. That discomfort you're trying so hard to avoid is actually the doorway to your next level. And the longer you resist walking through it, the more intense the signs become. Life doesn't keep handing you the same lesson because it wants to punish you. It's because you haven't integrated it. You're still pushing it away, hoping it'll vanish. But growth doesn't work like that. Healing doesn't work like that. You get what you're willing to face. You transform what you're brave enough to feel. You've traded your vision for validation. Somewhere along the way, your dreams got quieter and the noise of the world got louder. What you once wanted with fire in your chest was replaced by a need to be liked, followed, approved, accepted. You stopped chasing what set your soul on fire and started chasing what looked good to other people. You measured your progress by likes, your worth by opinions, and your decisions by fear of judgment. And the scariest part is, you didn't even notice it happening, because validation feels good temporarily. It's addictive. It gives you a hit of dopamine that tells you you're enough, but it wears off fast, and when it fades, you're left with the emptiness of a life that isn't truly yours. You used to dream with boldness. You had a vision that didn't need applause, just action, but when the world started telling you to be realistic, to play it safe, to follow the crowd, you started compromising, bit by bit, until your vision wasn't yours anymore. It was shaped by what other people thought was acceptable. You started asking for permission, instead of pursuing purpose. You started shrinking your voice to fit into rooms that didn't deserve your presence. And all the while, you wondered why you felt anxious, disconnected, unfulfilled. That's what happens when you abandon your vision. That's what happens when you betray your inner truth for external approval. Validation is a trap dressed as love. It whispers, do this so they'll like you. Say this so they won't reject you. Be this so you won't be alone. But every time you say yes to that voice, you say no to your soul. And over time, your authentic self becomes buried beneath layers of performance. You forget what you actually believe because you're too busy adapting to what others want you to be. Your goals aren't really your goals, they're borrowed dreams. Your confidence isn't really confidence, it's dependency. You only feel good when someone else claps, and when they don't, you question your worth. The problem isn't that you care what people think. It's that you care more than you care about what you think. You value their opinion more than your own inner compass. You let strangers on the internet decide whether your ideas are worthy. You let people who don't know your heart dictate the direction of your life. And as long as that continues, your vision will stay blurry, because vision doesn't grow in the soil of people pleasing. It grows in the space of alignment, courage, and truth. You can't build a meaningful life on borrowed expectations. There comes a moment where you have to choose the vision or the validation, the path that lights you up or the path that gets you applause. They rarely align because real vision requires sacrifice. It requires being misunderstood. It requires choosing what's right for your soul over what's easy for your ego. And not everyone will get it. Not everyone will support it. But you didn't come here to fit in. You came here to wake up, to rise, to lead. And you cannot lead while constantly checking the room for approval. You know deep down what you want. You know the dream you've been putting off because someone might laugh. You know the gift you've been hiding because it might not be perfect. That hesitation is the cost of trading vision for validation. And until you take your power back, you'll keep running in circles, busy but not fulfilled, accepted but not free. The truth is, no amount of external validation will ever fill the void left by abandoning your own voice. And the day you stop chasing approval and start chasing alignment is the day everything begins to shift. Stress is a signal, not your identity. It's not who you are. It's something you're experiencing. But most people make the mistake of internalizing it. They feel anxious and assume they are anxious. They feel overwhelmed and conclude they are weak. They feel lost and label themselves as failures. But stress is not a personality trait, it's feedback. It's your body, your mind, your spirit trying to get your attention. It's not here to define you, it's here to guide you. When your phone buzzes with a notification, you don't confuse it with the phone itself. You know it's a message, a signal, something to check, but when stress shows up, people forget that it works the same way. They don't pause to ask what the message is, they just react. They carry it, they identify with it, and then it becomes their story. I'm always overwhelmed. I can't handle pressure. I'm not good enough. That's how stress becomes more than just a moment, it becomes a self-concept. And when you see yourself through the lens of stress, you stop seeing your potential clearly. But stress has intelligence. It shows up to point at what's out of balance. It's not random. It's not meaningless. It's not just an inconvenience. It's data. If you listen closely, stress will tell you what you're tolerating that you shouldn't be. It will tell you where you've said yes when you meant no. It will expose the gap between how you're living and what you truly value. But if you treat it like the enemy, you'll miss the gift hidden inside it. Because stress is not the villain, it's the alarm, and like any alarm, the purpose isn't to scare you, it's to wake you up. The problem is, most people don't wake up. They hit snooze on their own lives. They ignore the signs. They numb the discomfort with distractions. They pretend they're fine, and all the while, the stress keeps growing louder. It turns into burnout, It turns into health issues. It turns into emotional breakdowns, not because they're weak, but because they didn't pay attention to the signal when it was still soft. And what starts as a whisper becomes a scream when you refuse to listen. Stress isn't always about too much, sometimes it's about too little. Too little meaning, too little authenticity, too little rest, too little self-respect. You can be doing all the right things and still feel off if those things don't reflect who you really are. That's why success doesn't always cure stress. Because if the success is misaligned with your truth, it will feel like pressure, not purpose. You'll feel trapped in a life you built trying to prove something instead of living something real. You have to stop wearing stress like a badge of honor. Being busy isn't the same as being valuable. Being overwhelmed isn't the same as being committed. Stress isn't proof that you care, it might be proof that you've stopped caring for yourself. That doesn't mean you're broken, it means you're overdue for realignment. It means it's time to get honest about what's working and what's not. It means asking harder questions. Who am I trying to please? What am I afraid will happen if I slow down? What emotions have I been avoiding that are now manifesting as tension in my body? You don't fix stress by pretending it's not there. You fix it by understanding it. You shift from asking, why am I like this, to what is this trying to show me? That simple shift in language changes everything. It puts you back in the driver's seat. It reminds you that you are not your stress. You are not your thoughts. You are not your worst day. You are the observer of those things. You are the one capable of shifting your story, adjusting your environment, rewriting the narrative. Stress might visit, but it doesn't get to unpack and live inside you. The next level of your life demands a new version of you, not a slightly improved version, not a 10% upgrade, a complete internal shift, because what got you here won't get you there. The thoughts, beliefs, habits, and identities that built your current reality are not the ones that will unlock your next one. Growth doesn't ask for permission. It demands surrender. It requires you to let go of the safety of who you've been and step into the discomfort of who you're becoming. You can't expect breakthrough while clinging to comfort. You can't expect a higher outcome with the same mindset that created your current limits. The truth is, your next level will cost you something. It might cost you old relationships, unproductive routines, limiting beliefs, or the version of you that's been playing small to avoid risk. But it's not loss, it's evolution. You're not being punished. You're being invited to become the person your dreams require, and that person is already inside you, waiting for you to stop hesitating and start embodying. Most people talk about change but don't prepare for it. They visualize success, but resist the transformation that success demands. They want freedom, but won't release what chains them. They want clarity, but won't confront their confusion. And so they stay stuck, not because they're incapable, but because they refuse to shed the skin that no longer fits. The next level won't open until you prove you're ready to step into it, not by words, but by decision. Not by hoping, but by becoming. Becoming isn't glamorous. It's messy. It's inconvenient. It's hard. It feels like losing yourself before you find yourself. It challenges your ego, your comfort zones, and your excuses. It will feel like everything is falling apart right before it all comes together, and if you don't understand that discomfort is part of the process, you'll misinterpret it as a sign to stop. But discomfort isn't the enemy. It's the evidence that you're being stretched into something more. There's a version of you that's unbothered by opinions, undistracted by doubt, and unapologetic about your mission. But that version isn't activated by wishing. It's activated by alignment. It's activated by courage. It's activated when you stop negotiating with fear and start committing to your evolution. Every level of your life has a version of you guarding the door. That version says, you can't go any further unless you change. And if you refuse, you stay on repeat. You keep experiencing the same patterns in different packaging, same setbacks, same sabotages, same limitations, just wearing new names. You weren't meant to live the same year over and over. You were meant to rise, to grow, to expand into everything you're capable of becoming. But that expansion requires identity work. It requires looking at who you've been, who you're pretending to be, and who you're afraid to become. It means letting go of the smallness that makes you feel safe and stepping into the greatness that makes you feel seen. It's not about changing into someone else. It's about returning to the version of you that was never afraid to be bold, to take up space, to go all in. The next level is not a fantasy. It's a decision to no longer tolerate what drains you, a decision to stop waiting for external permission, a decision to show up differently, speak differently, move differently. Not because you're faking anything, but because you're finally choosing authenticity over approval, purpose over perfection, legacy over laziness. That decision will feel risky. It will feel uncertain. But the biggest risk is staying the same. The real danger is in settling, in watching your potential rot behind excuses and your future shrink behind fear. You don't need to wait for a sign. You are the sign. You are the shift. You are the evidence that change is possible, but you won't feel it until you become it.